1:30 next week.
Okay.
29th next week already, end of the month already.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, kind of went fast.
Cool.
That's really cool. Just got a hold of that this morning. I says, I'd like to give this to you. He says, you'll find a time that you can present. That's awesome.
Yep, we're leaving tomorrow morning.
They broke their tomorrow morning.
Yeah, it's not all put together. It's they're.
Well,
I do
still
like strike at a time, so I just have to put the backing on it.
Supposed to have well, I always wondered how, with them
I'm
here.
in the doghouse right now because I've had it there for 5 weeks and I worked 60 hours the last 3 days putting it together. So. I use the doghouse, but why do you do that? You always push things right. I said, I thought she was leaving on Monday. She gave me till Wednesday. I said, heck, I got all kinds of. I didn't think the parts were going to be there till today.
Yeah.
They showed up Thursday, so I got a little ahead of schedule, but I'm still got those final touches.
You work best under pressure.
There was a great game last night.
I got some texts about it. Great substitute coach too.
Well, he was just so fast.
Yeah, right.
I felt for one. It came from Brennan. I thought it was real. So people are thinking about it. Hello.
It's good they're thinking. Good
But they're still clicking.
I got Darren, my printer doesn't work. We figured out.
Your iPad doesn't work?
Well, it does now, but
Oh,
what a
good.
pain in the ass. The new, how come I'm the only one? I said, do you guys use
What's that?
Adobe on your iPad?
I do. I got it on right now.
The new one? God, I hate it.
Oh, this works awesome for me. But
Well, they don't
Yeah.
support the one I had. So I just have to learn.
That's
I didn't know how to work it. And you all got new iPads. I think that's probably the difference. Oh, isn't that great?
you like that?
Oh, it's beautiful. And I heard you rocked it the other day with Mary Jo.
Did he show you? He didn't show me. He didn't show me.
Oh! Yeah, that was
Kind of low rent.
you know. It's pretty easy. And you know, I threw Minnesota stuff in there. And now with Google and stuff,
Mark, you lose track of
stuff.
the
Yeah, I started when I first got him. I was thinking right away.
She said it was really nice. So
You know, everybody said, I think it's true.
I sent the picture to her. I said, you make second place, I'll make one for you too.
They'll see me for sure.
Well, I think she has a good shot at it.
Well, and after listening,
I'll mail it.
it's between her and Christian.
Oh, there's no doubt about that.
And the other gal is just so unbelievable.
I haven't heard
Is he already retired?
He's retired this year, so
She sounds like she.
So if I mailed it to like a work address, he'll still get it? Okay. And what was his name again?
Tom Fair.
So,
I mean, and she
I'll
writes.
follow up with it.
Okay.
I don't get along with anybody. It's really great.
I'm going, oh, well, that's special.
That's interesting.
So,
From Bowl
so all that's engraved
in
in.
there, but he's been
That
there probably
is
10
just
years.
See the cut of the wood?
Yeah.
All these are engraved.
Wow.
So,
How long did it take you? It would take me.
you know,
I'd never get it done.
It almost, it takes longer to put because each one is cut separately, each stripe.
Hi, Pat.
And of course, I got to put
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. I have each stripe.
Good morning, kind sir. Good morning.
On a computer chip.
Notice I put kind in there. I don't know that. Doesn't usually follow his name.
You know, once I started yesterday, it was kind of the end result.
That's by watching him sign cards.
You can see that was one of my test
Right out of the
cuts.
chute.
That's
Let's go,
a test cut, and then after I did that, then I knew I could do this. So,
Wow.
but
That's
it's
really cool.
it was fun. It was-
None.
They're gonna
We
do
spring.
handkerchiefs.
Yeah.
Yeah. On Highway 14,
Yeah.
it was
And a bandana.
raining so hard.
Bandana,
and
yeah. I couldn't think of
One
it.
time I got an inch and a half, 2 inches.
And I was, she said, what do you think about that? And I
Even
said,
though I was thinking about some rain.
No,
Yeah, we didn't get-
you can tie it on your bag, which will be the best way to
Well, that's
do
what
it.
she said, or your arm, or your whatever you want.
Yeah, but
And I said, well, you've got them long
Yeah.
enough, I could use it as a tie, I can use it as a tie.
I don't think that's gonna be
That's
working.
not a big deal.
Well, you see funnier
Lawn
things
has
than ties.
Well, that's true. You could have a
Shaded,
bow
there's
tie out
areas,
of it.
it's
But
seeded. My grass
Chase
is
Matt, I got a hold of Matt this morning.
It'd been
He said
nice to get
that
some rain and
he'd give me a time to present it at
a higher level, but
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our June 22nd, 2021 Board of Commissioner meeting. Our first order of business would stand and pledge the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Our first item to discuss is our agenda review. Is there any additions or corrections, Bob?
Mr. Chair, there are no changes today.
I'll move the agenda.
Second.
I got a motion and a second for the agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Our first business here is planning and zoning. Good morning. Welcome up here now.
Good morning.
So,
Good morning.
good morning, John. Welcome
Hi,
aboard
John.
to our staff.
Thank you.
Hope things are going well for you. And Scott, thank you for all your help and service. Appreciate it.
Here, I almost had a mistake. I thought maybe we were having a presentation from GMG.
He's got a new life
wearing
now.
know it.
And he's wearing a tie, too.
We are
Yeah,
lucky.
yeah.
Yes,
We are lucky.
It'll be a good fit for our organization. So, we have several items to discuss from planning and zoning today. So I will let you guys start up.
All right, Mr. Chair, PC 27-20 is application from Stephen and Patricia Reedstrom in Sunrise Development LLC. The request is a review and approval of an interim use permit for a 1 megawatt solar energy system located in the agricultural district in the northwest quarter of the southeast quarter of Section 4 Rapidan Township. This interim use permit was granted back in January and nothing with the proposal has changed. The reapproval is being done as large solar energy systems were inadvertently not included as interim use permits in the agricultural districts, and back in May of 2021 we changed that, and so this is just to ensure compliance with the county code. At the Planning Commission meeting, staff presented the report. A representative of the applicants was there for questions from the Planning Commission. There were no public comments, and following a brief discussion, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to forward a recommendation for approval of the request based on the findings prepared by staff and the conditions in the staff report, and the board action is a resolution.
Thank you, Scott. All right, at this time we will open up for public comment. This hearing is being recorded, so please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes, and if you're calling in yet, please unmute your phone when you're ready to speak. Is there anyone that would like to comment on PC 2720, Sunrise Development LLC?
Hey there, Mr. Chair. Excuse me, this is Chuck Beisner. I'm the applicant. I'm here to answer any questions anybody might need. Otherwise, in support to the application in front of you.
Okay, thank you, Chuck, for letting us know you're here. At this time, is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on PC 2720? Anyone wishing to comment on PC 2720 for the Sunrise Development LLC? Hearing no public comment, I'll bring it back to the county board for action.
I'll move approval. Langhammer.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Looks like it's gonna be a nice solar
Yeah.
field there, so that's a plus.
Yeah. Okay, hearing no questions. Thank you, Chuck, for sitting in on the meeting this morning. I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, John. Next item is PC 1821.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. PC item 1821 is a request for review and approval from Central Farm Service, also known as CFS, the Dennis W. Nelson Disclaimer Trust, and the Johnson Family Revocable Living Trust for an interim use permit to construct and operate a liquefied petroleum or LP gas storage and distribution facility. The proposal includes the placement of up to 6 LP storage tanks ranging in size from 30,000 gallons to 45,000 gallons, a fill station, and an office space in an existing building. The property is zoned highway business and is in the urban fringe overlay district of the city of Mankato. The site is in the northeast quarter of the southwest quarter of Section 19 in South Bend Township. The site address is 53787 State Highway 60, Mankato, Minnesota 56001. At the Planning Commission meeting, staff presented the report. The applicants were linked into the virtual meeting and were available to answer any questions. There was no public comment. The chair asked the Planning Commission for their comments and review of the staff's findings. Following the discussion, the Planning Commission forwarded a recommendation of approval for the request based on the findings prepared by staff and the conditions proposed, and the board action was resolution.
Thank you, John. At this time, I will ask if there's any representatives or someone from the Central Farm Services. Okay. At this time, is there anyone who wishes to comment on PC 1821, Central Farm Services? Anyone wishing to comment on PC 1821 for Central Farm Services? And last time, anyone wishing to comment on PC 1821 Central Farm Services, please come to the podium, state your name and address. Hearing no public comment, I'll bring it back to the county board for action.
I'll move the resolution.
Second.
First from Mark and a second from Vance. Any discussion?
I'll just add, I'm a customer of this. It'll be, use a lot of LP, not only in hog barns around the county, but in the corn dryers and everything else. It'd be nice to have a facility in the county, so appreciate that.
Yeah. There were several comments from the board members at the planning and zoning about the need for this, so. All right, if there's no other questions or comments, I have a motion and a second for PC 1821 Central Farm Services. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. PC 1921.
Yeah, this is a request from Daniel, Stacy, and Jade Williams. It's a request for review and approval of an interim use permit for grading and filling more than 50 cubic yards in the shoreline of the Maple River. The purpose of the project is to construct a driveway to allow access to the property adjacent to the river to install riprap below an actively eroding bluff. The project is in the Conservation District, and it's in the southwest quarter of the southeast quarter, Section 3, Lyra Township. At the Planning Commission meeting, staff presented the report. The applicants were linked into the meeting, and they agreed with the detail in the report and indicated that they will likely be constructing a home on the property in the future. There was no public comments. The chair asked the Planning Commission for comments, and the members thanked the applicants for their taking a progressive approach to fixing the erosion problems on the property, and they had no other comments or questions. And then following discussion, the Planning Commission forwarded a recommendation for approval of the request based on the findings prepared by staff and the conditions in the staff report. And the board action is a resolution.
Thank you, Scott, for the report. At this time, I will open up the public comment portion of our hearing. If there is anyone from the public who would like to comment, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes and unmute your phone if you're online. Is there anybody from the applicant in the audience? Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Stacy Williams. My husband Daniel is here, and if you have any questions, we're certainly able to answer those for you.
Okay, thank you, Stacy.
Yep.
Could we get your address for the record?
Yeah.
Oh,
Thanks, Bob.
510 Range Street, North Mankato.
Thank you, Bob. Anyone else from the public would like to comment on PC 1921? Anyone wishing to comment on PC 1921? Hearing none, I'll close the public portion of the hearing and bring it back to the county board for action.
So to approve.
Got a motion and a second for approval. Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chair, my only comment is I really appreciate you addressing the erosion that's going on right now. I just think that's really critical, so I think that's a really positive thing.
Yep, very positive.
Yes, this is going to be a very large undertaking on their part, and we acknowledge that at planning and zoning, and the plans are very detailed, and it's a benefit to the whole entire county and state for that matter. So thank you for doing that. If there's no other public or no other comments from the county board on PC 1921 for the Williamses, I will ask for a motion or ask for a vote. I'll say aye if you.
I'll say aye.
No, if you. Motion carries. And that's it, huh?
That's it.
I thought we had one other item, but thank you.
Thank you.
We like planning.
Did all right for,
You know, John, it always goes, John, it's always this quick.
Yeah.
John, it's always this
It's
quick.
always this quick.
Yeah.
Not.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. All right, we'll move on to the County Ditch 86 petition for improvement. Craig.
Good morning.
Good morning. Today, our subject is the petition for improvement of County Ditch 86. Blue Earth County Ditch 86 is located in portions of Decorah and Beaufort Township. Its watershed is approximately 1,200 acres. A completed petition for improvement was received on June 7th, 2021. A clerical error was found on the petition. The attorney Kurt Dieter of Rinky Noonan reviewed the petition, map, and description and declared the petition is valid. The petition mistakenly referred to Mapleton Township. However, the documents, parcel identification numbers, and maps are correct. Mr. Dieter also reviewed the bond in favor of Blue Earth County and stated it meets statutory requirements. At today's meeting, the Blue Earth County Drainage Authority, we are requesting an order to appoint Charles J. Brandel of I&S Group to prepare a preliminary survey report in accordance with Minnesota Statute 103E.
Thank you, Craig.
Move to approve.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries for the hearing.
Thank you.
Craig.
Craig,
Thanks, Craig.
Craig, thank you for the link. I sent it to the gentleman, and he's going to get back to me.
You're welcome. All right, with that, we are down to Human Services. Phil Clausen. Good morning, Phil.
Morning, Phil.
Mr. Chair, I do have a couple things I'd like to pass out, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Hand them over, Stephanie's way. The first one is just a thank you card for one of the clinics that came in that Kelly wanted you all to see, and then underneath that are the kind of brochures we use for the SHIP program, and they do get updated periodically, so we just wanted commissioners to have those as well, just as a reference. It's a nice, quick reference. Well, it's good to see everyone, and thank you for allowing me some time this morning. I have a couple of action items, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, for your attention. The first of those in disability services, and this is something that we've seen on an annual basis, a group of providers that do our semi-independent living skills, which we refer to as SILS, the acronym, and you'll see the agencies represented: Smiles, REM, Ali, Harry Myring, Prairie Community Services, Dignity for Life, and EON. And so those are the 7 providers that do this in our county. The narrative in the middle of the paragraph talks about services helping the consumers remain in their homes by providing these pragmatic living skills that they need. And so all those providers are in that service business. The term July 1st of 21 through June 30th of 23. You'll see the rates to follow in 21 at $38.63 per hour, and for 22, a 2-year contract, $39.02. It represents a 1% increase during the 21 year and a 2% increase during 2022. And then the stars at the bottom are just some references for commissioners just on how the business mechanics work. We do have a DocuSign contract here, and the next one is as well. Blue Earth County contributes 15% of these costs, and the remaining 85% is covered by the state. The allocation on the next bullet is $157,000. The county match then is almost $28,000 for a total of almost $185,000. It is a relatively small service area for 24 consumers, but very critical services that are offered to these families. And so I know they're appreciated, and I know the people that do this work, it's not easy work. Also, Mr. Chair, just the following item, 2 items today for action. Supportive housing, we did get a grant that Andrew Peach applied for. It is this partnership that we've talked about between Blue Earth, Le Sueur, and Rice counties for people with disabilities who also have housing instability. It is also income related. Near the end of the paragraph, low income, also experiencing homelessness, along with the disability criteria. And then the second goal is streamlining administration and monitoring the activities related to supportive housing. We talk about that a lot, but we do have kind of a smaller group here of 3 counties where I think we can look at how do we do this work. It gets awfully complex, as you all know, and there's layers that are often added over time through the legislative process. And so I'm hoping we can really try to hold to that administrative simplification goal. This is previously known as GRH, Group Residential Housing. You may have heard that over the years, but That term is no longer, it's being sunset. I mean, people still refer to it like here, but it really is going to be under this supportive housing type of title. This is a new grant for our region. The total is $294,000 for a 2-year grant cycle, and the term is July 1st of 21 through June 30th of 23. And those are the 2 action items I have for today.
Alrighty.
Langhammer moves approval.
Thank you.
Second.
Got a first and a second. Discussion, questions? Good reports, Phil. A lot of good work being done. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
No other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries for the action items.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioners, we have a discussion insert here of several pages, and I actually would like to walk through these quickly with the board if you don't mind. I promise I won't read them to you, but Kelly prepared these last week before she left. She finally got a vacation after about 1.5 years, and so has a few days off. One of her children is an athlete in Taekwondo, and so they're down south somewhere at a meet. So
They
that's
just
kind of-
got back.
Did they?
Because
Did you hear
Darren's
it?
here
Oh,
working
I
on,
didn't see
he's not here, he's in the other room.
Yeah.
They were in Tarrant County, Texas, Fort
Oh,
Worth.
nice.
Yeah.
Love it.
We know that county. I was actually talking to Glenn yesterday, who's the county judge there, yeah.
Well, you all know Kelly too, and she's like, I could probably get to the board. I said, Kelly, just give me notes. I'm sure they'll put up with me for 1 month, and they'll be glad to have you back next month.
She just had a daughter
yeah.
that graduated too from high school.
Oh, isn't that exciting too? It's just a really good time. So yes, a lot to be thankful for. Kelly's notes on COVID from last week, some of these are already dated as we know, but the primary goal I thought was interesting just now has shifted to the herd immunity that we hear a lot about at 70%, which we are meeting in a lot of areas, and then obviously to prevent future outbreaks and the new strains that are out there, which are in the news kind of on a daily basis. The guiding principles under Section A are to be effective and efficient, which are in our mission statement, and avoid duplication. And then also immunize for impact, so to practice smart about trying to look at the at-risk with severe disease that could be life-threatening for individuals, congregate settings, and many exposures like in a retail setting. If you have a lot of people coming through, those would be the primary ones. The access under item B, there are more and more really wide open availability, so I think people are experiencing that, evening, weekends, and walk-in. Examples of open door and Hy-Vee, and also a willingness to come right to businesses. We've heard about the strategies of going to bars and other things with success. Access is a factor in transportation and other things too, so it's an interesting element that we've learned through COVID. And our public health, we've spent some time trying to serve the jail, and then truly homebound. Kelly has a note there about that it's a tight definition of what homebound really is, but we know transportation, language barriers, those types of things will be something that we want to keep looking out for. And under Section C, again, this is where I was saying it's already a little dated, but as of June 6th, we had 1.39% positivity rate, and this is down from 6.4 the week before, which is down from 12.3 a month ago. And that's, yes, what we've all worked for, what you guys have been hoping for. Yeah, so that trend line is really what we've been working towards, and
So
very
the plan
pleased.
worked.
Yes, and we had no roadmap. We all felt that, personally or professionally, but it did work, Commissioner. I agree. On D, essential services, those, practically speaking, are about groceries and medications at this point. Early on, isolation and quarantine was part of that picture, but that's very rare now. The second bullet are some examples of a couple of families where they had children hospitalized and how we could come around and help them. And those were referred through the financial assistance unit. And I always like to see that, of course, from my chair, that one hand knows what the other hand's doing, and we get these cross referrals. Sometimes it's easy to live in our silos. And then the last bullet in that section, some more complicated cases with Children and Family Services and others within the mental health center as well, where we try to use a multidisciplinary team approach. And I like the note at the end that they always come through on Fridays and over weekends. That's a given. We know that that's going to happen. So, other efforts, promoting the vaccine connector. Jesse has been a great partner to us as far as getting word out and for the state and for ourselves as far as clinic activity. The transitional activities as part of the South Central Healthcare Coalition. I am a step removed from Kelly's work with that group, but I think they've been very successful too, and you said it worked. I think those partnerships, again, because of the silos, sometimes become bureaucratized, and this group isn't that way. And so I think as we look to the future and try to plan, we want to build around those good partnerships that have come out of this and been tested now, and we know that they can be functional. We do respond to a lot of requests and inquiries, questions. I'm kind of all over the map. In the bullets underneath, you'll see some examples of supporting the at-home project, Minnesota Council of Churches, United Way, Project Community Connect, for examples. Last week there was some talk. I do not know how this turned out in the end. There were some communication breakdowns at times with MDH, but they do have buses that they want to bring down, especially if we can target areas. Part of the issue, and Bob and I talked about this briefly, but sometimes they say, well, maybe Somali population or maybe open door, but we might be doing the very same thing, and so the kind of statewide versus local coordination of communication is a really important piece of that, and sometimes that's been, I said about, we kind of started with some hiccups, and this one was a little bit of a hiccup too, just we weren't sure when we had that goal about not duplicating that issue is going to be big into the future, because I think there's more targeted need now as opposed to broad need in the community. And then responding to MDH and other surveys, there's always the survey part, and I do think it is important that we capture what we're learning along the way, so we don't want to miss that, especially at this juncture. And the funding, we had some good news about the most recent resource allocation. For us, it was about $480,000, got extended for 2 years, which I think is really, really good news. And some of those efforts, any vaccine efforts, testing, the essential services, education outreach, and any other activities related to COVID. So, yeah, things are definitely moving in the right direction. I think we all know it's important not to say that we're out of the woods yet, but we're getting there. So I might just pause, Mr. Chair, if there's any questions or comments about COVID, and then I just have a few other notes about other programs.
Any questions?
Just a comment. I was down at Songs on the Lawn, and they had, you could get your shots there during that. Yeah, so that was kind of cool.
It is, very much so.
Were they given very many, you know?
I have no idea. I just know they said, if you need a shot. And it was in the parking lot kind of behind GMG. A mobile clinic.
You maybe heard too, because we were trying with anybody left over from Blue Earth County ranks, families were invited, kind of open-ended, and that clinic we only had like under 10 people show up, so it's really getting sparse as far as the amount of front-end work, trying to find people that still want a shot. So.
The ones that want the shots.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's
not necessarily the ones that need the shots.
Yes, of course, from my chair, I would agree with that for sure, Commissioner. Just a few other notes on other programs within public health, and we obviously never want to take our eyes off of the important work that's going on all through COVID, but now we'll need to have some extra emphasis to try to get back on track. MTRAC, our immunization registry, multi-county project, is obviously still doing their work and looking at preventing other diseases that we don't ignore any of these. We know in our area here, the issue with tuberculosis has always been a big deal. There's no vaccine for that, but the disease prevention control group in public health have now shifted a focus there, and there's a note lower here on that. You'll see the listing of some of the most common immunizations we do for MTRAC, and we track all that, and there is a joint powers board formed around this with the other participating counties, and we talk on a very regular basis about getting the word out and also making sure kids get their shots.
Mr. Chair, how are we doing it, with parents deciding not to give their kids shots?
Commissioner, I would still say it's very rare that that's
Okay.
there. It's obviously their right to object and to conscientiously say no. Probably a lot like where we're at with COVID, that
Okay.
we're not going to make people take these shots. But it is, the incidents of that are very, very low, much
Good.
under 1% of people that should be immunized. I think it's a messaging, it's a transportation issue, it's, some of that, do they even go to the doctor? I think those might be even bigger issues than the conscientious objectors.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Thanks.
WIC, excuse me, they are opening up. WIC is controlled by the feds, so it comes from the top down in this way, and so we're still in a holding pattern. I think they have a 30 or 60-day window after the emergency is lifted, so there's kind of like a template out there of how they're going to do that, and so that's across the state how WIC is operated virtually right now. This effort, though, increasing fruits and vegetable benefits, staff had to go back and, because there was more resource, manually update several hundred benefit packages for our community, which I thought was a great effort, and obviously a healthy thing regarding the food choices that we make. And then SHIP, Statewide Health Improvement Partnership, which we talk about, that's the card I handed out to you. We call ours Be Well. And we've resumed activities with grants, and those are active, and there will be press releases on all of those as well with the community schools, work sites, and healthcare agencies. Waivered services, where we do case management for managed care organizations as well. This is an area in almost every area where we have our caseload problem. So our caseload is tipped just over 800, which equates to just shy of 100 cases per staff, and the target there is around 75. So Bob and I have already, as part of the budgeting process, just talked about, how do we look at these things, really assess them from a business perspective. There is revenue, but I would say that everyone would agree, plus or minus, that it kind of floats the boat. It's not like a gravy train, that's for sure. And there is question if you come up just shy of floating the boat, that adds up. And so I think more analysis on that and really saying, are these revenues worth chasing, and is there economy of scale that's the right cross-cut of how much of the service we do in the future. You have been very generous about adding staff, but just like we talked about with children's mental health, the caseloads fill up again and we're right back to the same scenario. And that is a board level issue of kind of government growth. There is need in our community. I can certainly attest to that. And here's the tuberculosis note. Caseload right now is back up to 4 individuals. And then we do contact tracing around who they've had contact with, because it is a contagion and we want to make sure that we test other folks for exposure. These have been small catchments. Sometimes they work for like one of the food plants or something, and you have to really go in and cast this big net around everyone that maybe had contact in close proximity. These were contained, so that's for us really good news, because that's about staff time and trying to get the net around it. And then we have a couple of openings, nurse for maternal child health and WIC, and then also our program coordinator for disease prevention and control. So we're trying to fill those actively. And that's what I had for you all today.
Mr. Chair?
Questions?
Yeah, are you having a hard time finding nurses? I figured that was the answer. I was hoping I was wrong.
Well, and I really will say it's kind of a mixed story, because it's very hard hire to find a nurse. It's very competitive, and when we look at liking to hire at the front end of our scale, nurses are always a very different scenario, where we're often pushed to the back end of our scale because it is competitive. Over the years, even decades that I've been here, we never feel like we can compete with shift work. Like at the hospital, they pay significantly more, sometimes $10 an hour more. That isn't really the same commensurate profile. So We do ask people to say, well, part of why you're doing this is it's more of an 8 to 5 job. There's some exceptions with some of the disease outbreak stuff, but that's kind of the workplace scenario that we struggle with. I also will say, Commissioner, though, that we've had this trickle, like every posting will have not a huge, like if we post for a financial worker, sometimes we get 40 or 50 applicants. Here we might get 3, but we often will find one that seems to be a really good fit, because I always like, don't hire somebody that doesn't seem like they fit. That's not a good move. But we've really had some success. So even though it's skinny and thin, I think we've kind of worked our way through, and these postings seem to be like they might be like that again. Like we have a couple of candidates. For a while, I remember years ago, we would post for a nurse and get no response, and we'd just leave it an open posting, just say anybody that ever wants to work here, just apply and we'll talk to you. And so we're a little better off than that.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. We had this discussion this morning at the Airport Commission. How do you like that? On nurses, you know, with the community college and the university here, and there's such a need for nursing that it's really challenging.
Yes.
The hospital, I guess, is having really challenging times trying to find enough. So.
Well, I won't overstay my welcome, but you know, the psychiatric story, when Dr. Barnes was here early, it was part of the requirement that you had an MD in your clinic, and now they've changed that, so advanced practice nursing have really helped that. Here, I think the story will be the LPN level of credentialing, that even in our clinic that we're saying, can we find LPNs? They still are at the high end of the nursing scale for that, but we're not competing with some of that shift work at the hospital, so to speak, that pays extremely well. And so we're trying to, you know, adjust to kind of some of those workforce issues that are out there. So it's a hot topic, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Other questions or comments?
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you all. It's good to
Have
see
a
you.
great day.
Thank you. Same to you.
Thanks, Phil.
Mr. Chair, we are running a little fast today, so we may need to jump to do some administrative items while we're waiting for John to arrive.
That works. Works for us.
Yep.
So let's go down to administrative. Bob, you can start us up with.
First item, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, is County Board minutes for June 8th.
Move approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second for the minutes. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries for the minutes.
Next are the bills for the 2 weeks indicated.
Move the bills.
Okay, got a motion and a second for the bills. Is there any questions that haven't been answered already? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Human Resources.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, item number 7 in your packet is the Human Resources Department agenda. We do have one action item for the board's consideration today, and that is an approval of a revised telecommuting policy and procedure. As you recall, in response to the pandemic, we did have a kind of a temporary telework policy that was implemented in March of 2020. And then after that, we replaced that with a telecommuting policy in August of last year. We've determined since then that some additional revisions are needed as we try to further clarify some issues that have surfaced since. So we're proposing a revised telecommuting policy, and some of the major changes include further definition around telecommuting work site and the primary work site, with the telecommute work site primarily being a home situation and maintaining our Blue Earth County buildings as the primary work site. That's important when we get into calculating mileage and some of those pieces. The new policy also clarifies that newer employees may be eligible to telecommute based on experience prior to coming to Blue Earth County. We all know that everyone's been in kind of this virtual world, and so we know that people that may be joining our organization already have experience with telecommuting, and so it tries to maintain some competitiveness in our recruitment efforts. It also recognizes that telecommuting may lead to some work being moved to other office-based staff. We initially kind of tried to say that telecommuting isn't going to shift work to other workers, but the reality is it does, and so we're acknowledging that and trying to address that proactively. It also clarifies the proper handling of time and mileage reimbursements for the telecommuters. And then it also reinforces that telecommuting is available to those positions that the department had views as appropriate given workload demands and business needs. So this is a employer-driven process. Employees will make a request, but it really has to be decided based on business need. And so we're bringing this policy revision forward for the board's consideration today.
Thank you, Bob.
Mr. Chair, I'm hoping that when we look at this, that we may change some of the hours that people are able to telecommute. For instance, making it more accessible for some people who work all day, this would be clients, to be able to work with someone in the evening or in the early morning. So I'm hoping we're looking at all of that as we go through this. I think of corrections sometimes, being able to talk to one of the clients in the evening or over their lunch hour or something like that. So I hope we're being really flexible as to how we do this, because I think there's opportunities to have people not have to leave work to do some, and I'm talking clients, not have to leave work to talk to their corrections agent. They can do it in the evening or something like that. So I'm hoping there's a lot of flexibility with this. It looks like a good proposal to me, but I just hope our supervisors and department heads are also flexible and figuring out how to do this in the best possible way. Because we're not an 8 to 5 organization anymore, as far as I'm concerned.
Was that a motion?
Oh, I'll move it.
I'll second.
All right, got a motion and a second. Other comments?
It sounds like a great idea. Obviously, you know, with the year of COVID, that lasted about a year and a half, actually. You know, things have been revised. Things have been changed. We've learned how to use Zoom. We've learned how to use Google Meets. Things have changed, and hopefully the county is going to advance with the changes and do the proper thing. We all need to understand that our directors from our different organizations have different jobs and different things that they do. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. And we do trust what they say, and this is a great, you know, I read this through and it seems like a great policy, so I think it will be good.
Thank you, Vance. Other comments?
I have one comment. It's about experiment, evaluate, and adjust.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're doing as we've gone through this, and we will continue to do that. I always like that term.
Well, things are always changing and always moving, so.
Yep.
Got to be able to move with the times.
I've got a question, not about this, but after this. So when we get done with the vote here, I'd like to ask.
Okay. All right, any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor of the new policy for the commute, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
No. Well, during the emergency that the governor put out, we were able to use Zoom to get into meetings. Will that continue after it's done with? Can the board members continue to use Zoom after the emergency conditions are done with? Like a month from now, if we are somewhere, can we zoom into a meeting and be part of it?
There have been legislative changes that have adjusted the open meeting law that does grant the board the option to conduct work via virtual means, I believe up to 3 times a year, that a member can be off-site, so to speak.
Okay.
But we'd have to kind of analyze those changes and make sure that we're in compliance going forward. But there have been adjustments that I think are targeted at recognizing that the virtual world is here to stay.
If there's a way that you could, write those rules up so we could take a look at them, so, I mean, if we're somewhere, we're at a conference somewhere, but there's going to be a board meeting, it's important for us to be involved.
Yeah, and I think that is the crux of what is now allowed, that you'd have that option available to you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I could say something. I have a law clerk that's going through this right now, just to put in place what the changes are.
Oh, sorry.
So we can get something to you.
That'd be awesome. Thank you very much.
And I should have asked this of Phil. The emergency powers and the Health and Human Services bill has not passed yet. But I'm just wondering what the impacts are going to be. And it sounds like the emergency powers are probably going to go away. It sounds like that's one of the...
That's going to be part of the budget deal. Or whatever,
yeah.
It sounds like.
The global, yeah. So I'm really curious as to, and I know we'll know more, but I'm concerned about those emergency powers going away, especially in human services. So I guess we'll see what happens, but.
Phil and I did chat about that a little bit last week, and it does sound like it will be soon when some of those waivers will start to fade away, and there's going to be more of that requirement to meet face to face, and some of those kind of return to what was, whether you want to call it normal or not. What's normal now versus what we used to have to do, but we are actively kind of preparing for what could come.
Yeah. The sad thing is there are some things that have worked so well with virtual, and if that all goes away, it's a sad commentary from my perspective.
There'll be some hybrids out there, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Bob, why don't you finish up the informational items then?
Sure. Well, we have actually a couple of resignations of correctional officers, so item A and C here, I'm sorry, A and E, pardon me. So we've initiated recruitment to refill those positions. We also had a resignation of a legal assistant in the county attorney's office, so we've initiated recruitment to fill that position. We have filled a library clerk, a part-time position there, as well as a senior account clerk in our finance office. We completed filling an M-Track coordinator position, basically taking a temporary employee that had been working with us for some time and making them a permanent county employee. And then we've initiated recruitment for a child and adult protection assessment worker. Be happy to answer any questions the board might have on any of those items.
Any questions on those items from the board? Okay. Seeing none, we will go to community corrections. John.
Morning, John.
Good morning, John.
Good morning, John.
Morning, John.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners.
Got a couple items for us today?
Yes, this morning I have 2 items for you. I believe the first that will be up there is going to be the drug court contract cooperative agreement. So this is an agreement between Blue Earth County Community Corrections and the state of Minnesota through the 5th Judicial District. So this is an ongoing collaboration partnership that we've had that is an agreement to provide basically probation services to the clients in the Blue Earth County Adult Treatment Court. This agreement would start July 1st and go until June 30th of 2023 would be $90,000 each year for a total amount of $180,000. It's been a long-standing relationship that we've had with them. Basically helps us to cover some of the expenses related to the probation officers that work with our adult treatment court. And so we've had a good relationship with them, and this is just a continuation of that.
All right. Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved. Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the drug court grant. Any questions or comments?
Just a comment. I think the drug treatment courts are really important and really great, but this comes nowhere near paying for it. But,
No.
But it's a really good thing.
Yes.
So I'm going to support it.
Yeah,
But,
absolutely. Yes, it's been a good partnership for us. Obviously, it doesn't cover everything with what we have working in the drug court, but it has been a positive partnership for us over the years.
I think those courts have made such a difference in people's lives, so
absolutely.
I think it's a really positive thing.
Yeah, it's really neat to see the outcomes that can come when somebody's able to successfully complete the program and see that graduation and just to see the difference, in that person's life and just, the impact, not just that the court has had, but that the programs had on them and what they've done for themselves to better their life and hopefully for the long term.
It's a good thing.
Yes.
Blue Earth County has always taken the leading edge on this, and I really appreciate what the work you do and the work Pat does with the veterans courts and stuff. It's just
good stuff.
It's good stuff, and it really makes Blue Earth County look good.
Yeah, and also we have, the Family Dependency Treatment Court, not necessarily my department's, fully involved in, it's more on the child protection side, but we have some overlap there as well with some of the clients in there that may be on supervision to us. So we're very fortunate to have the specialty courts that we have and have different judges each assigned to each one of those specialty courts too. It's really a great thing to have for us here.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, and Colleen, we had this conversation when we started this program, is how we're going to fund it in the future, because we figured it was going to be a good program, but the county board was willing to take a risk at that time. I think the first grant was 2 or 3 years. Yeah.
I was here.
It was 2 or 3 years, I think, and that's the discussion we had, is that what are we going to do when the funding runs out? Luckily, it doesn't run out altogether. It still ain't enough, but at least some funding has been afforded with it.
Yeah, this is the same dollar amount that we received during the last contract as well. So this is continuation of that at the same rate.
I think giving people that leg up makes all the difference, and I think it's well worth supporting and infusing. I can't even say it. Putting property tax dollars into it, I think is worth it.
Yeah, it's hard to quantify what we're saving.
You never know.
It's impossible, but we are convinced that it's working.
So keeping people out of that criminal justice system that may be coming in, through again and again and again. Absolutely.
Give second chances sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Third
and fourth. Yeah, absolutely. And there's, some people say it takes 7 times before you realize, that, and like you said, for it to click is very true. So you have to keep giving them, we sometimes call it dosage, have another dose of treatment, another dose of treatment. We're going to try it again. Maybe it didn't stick last time, but hopefully this is the time that it sticks for you.
Okay. Did I get a motion and a second on that one?
Yep.
You did.
I did, okay. Good discussion. Thank you, John, for the answers. Got a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries for the grant.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, on to agenda item number 2 for me. This is an advisory board appointment. This is a replacement. I'm just respectfully requesting that we appoint Mariana Joffrey to the Blue Earth County Community Corrections Advisory Board. So this term, she is taking the place of Tegan Jass. Tegan had been on the board for a couple of years. Tegan graduated high school and is now a college student and just hasn't been able to make it work with her schedule. So actually I was presenting virtually to a class at Mankato West, and I knew that Tegan was potentially going to have to drop, and so I was presenting and I just said to the class, I said, well, if anybody's interested in the advisory board, I may have an opening. And so this student, Marianne Joffrey, reached out to her teacher And we got connected, and we talked, we chatted over the phone. And so she was interested, and I said, well, it sounds like a great idea. So she's a 9th grade student at, well, she'll be going into the 10th grade at Mankato West.
Wow.
Commissioner District 1. And so she had expressed interest to her teacher, and I thought, great fit. You know, after meeting with her, I just thought it would be really good to bring her on board. She seemed really interested, and so I'm just respectfully requesting that she be approved for the board. Her spot and all of the spots would be up at the end of this calendar year. They'd be up for reappointment at that time. So
I'll move approval.
Second.
First and a second for the appointment. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries for the appointment. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
We'll go back down to Emergency Management Performance Grant.
Well, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, I have number 8 in your packet is a brief memo and the grant agreement. The Sheriff's Office has been awarded a 2020 Emergency Management Performance Grant. This is a 50-50 matching grant of $37,252. It is a grant period that's a little unusual in that it covers January 1st of 2020 through June 30th of 2021, and we're just getting it now. So we're recommending approval.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second for the grant. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries for the grant.
Item number 9 in your packet is a request for a temporary liquor license by the Blue Earth County Fair Association for the period covering July 22nd through the 25th. And so recommending approval of that temporary liquor license.
Second.
First and second. Any discussion? Good to see the fair getting going again.
Yep.
I'm really impressed with what they're actually gonna have rides this year. They're bringing things right along, and of course with all the new things, they put some new roofs on the buildings, and they had hail damage, so they had some new roofs, and they got new bleachers for you know,
The grandstand.
the grandstand. I knew there was a word I was trying to, grandstand.
Some
So,
grandstands may be more grand, but we have a good grandstand.
I think it's, the fairgrounds is coming right along, and, you know, I think everything is coming back, so this is a real positive.
Other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, I have number 10 in your packet is a memo regarding a service agreement with Waseca County for basically septic system inspections and review. This is an agreement that we'd like to have with Waseca County to have them provide some service to Blue Earth County for these higher level type 4 permits. We are getting staff trained up so that we'll be able to do these permits and reviews in the future, but at this point we don't have that current licensure within our staff. So recommending approval of this agreement with Waseca County since we have a request coming forward soon.
Sure.
Move to approve.
Second?
Second.
Discussion?
A good cooperative agreement, you know, between counties, and that's what saves taxpayers money.
And we don't get
Across
a
the
lot
board.
of these throughout the year anyways, just onesies
Yep.
and twosies, so.
That's good to work with them.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? I got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries for the surface sewage drainage system inspection agreement. Financial report.
Yes, Mr. Chair. We have at tab 11, the financial status report for May 31st. This obviously is the first of these reports this year that includes the local tax levy. So you'll see that we recorded over $21 million of local tax levy receipts this month. That represents just under 54% of our annual budget for the levy. So again, those first half tax collections came in strong. You'll see that our total revenues sit at 51.5% of our budget. So again, we're running a little strong at that point in the year, obviously. With the tax levy collections, that helps, but you'll see other revenue lines that are also running kind of above what we would expect at this point in the year. So it's been a solid first 5 months of the year in terms of revenue. On the expenditure side, you'll see that our expenditures are at $37.7 million. That's 33% of our budget estimates at this point. So the expenditure side is running a little bit behind. That's fairly typical with our public works contracts and fees. Just sort of getting started at this point. We'll see that pick up over the course of the summer. But everything looks good at this point in the year from those perspectives.
Yeah, it looks like the only negative is the interest on investments.
Yeah, and most of that is the value of our investments. The market values have changed. We are generating some interest at a low level, but they're being offset by those market conditions. On the enterprise fund, you'll see that for the Ponderosa, total revenues are at just about 1.5 million, where expenditures are at 900,000. So that is running in a healthy position this year, mostly because we don't have any cell construction that's going on, and the machinery costs are low at this point, but that may change. The second page then has our cash and investment balances. You'll see, again, we're kind of at the high point of the year with the tax collections, with our total available funds towards the top there at 73.6 million. Total county funds sit at 137 million. We'll see that number go down throughout the rest of the year. It does also include those federal American Rescue Plan funds did arrive at 6.5 million, so that did obviously give another little boost to our cash funds. Be happy to answer any questions the board might have.
How much more we have coming from that account then?
Well, they're doing it in two payments. The first one this year at 6.5 million, and then next year about this time we'll get another 6.5.
I was saying it was all coming in this year, but that's, thank you. Any questions on the financials for the county? Very strong, very good. Okay, no questions. If there's anything else that we can bring forward the good of the order before we do the committee reports?
That's all I had for you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, well, let's start with committee reports, and Vince, I think we'll start with you today.
I can start off. It looks like our last board meeting was on the 8th of June. And we had a work session after that. We had our district meeting up in New Ulm in person. That was kind of nice. After my district meeting, I had a Blue Earth Nicolet County Safe Roads meeting on Zoom. We had a ribbon cutting for the Blue Earth County Community Farm on the 10th, and that was kind of nice. GMG came out and did a ribbon cutting. That evening, I had a library board meeting. Library board is, they're kicking off their summer reading stuff, and they're getting right back to where they were before COVID. So they're doing an amazing job. After my library board meeting, I had a 169 executive board meeting. And let's see, we come to the 15th. I had a Central Region meeting. You were on that one, weren't
I
you?
was on that one, yep.
And then I had a NACO transportation meeting on the 15th also. Mary and I went down on the 16th and read to the kids in the park. They had a library in the park, and that was kind of fun. Mary, they have a moose costume, and she was able to be Mary Moose.
Oh.
You know, I probably would have put it on, but the costume wouldn't have fit me. Then on the 17th, I had a TDS meeting, and that evening I went to the send-off for Marcia Danielson. She's going to be president for
Community College in Winona.
Winona. Yeah, that's it.
That's the easiest way to say it.
Yeah. Kind of nice to be seen and then surprise the person, like, I didn't expect you to be here. You know, so, but she was the one that actually hired me on as a volunteer working in the schools for diversity. And that was, 16 years ago. So, on the 18th, I had a RAC monthly meeting, and actually was able to introduce Mary Jo McGuire to the RAC members. So that was kind of fun. On the 19th, I went downtown for the Juneteenth celebration. And I guess that's the end of my meeting.
Thank you, Vance.
Thank you.
Clean.
Stuff that hasn't been mentioned yet, on the 8th, I went to the United Way Top Executives Leadership Luncheon, which gave awards to various people and businesses in town. It was really well attended and really nicely done. I had InterGov on the 10th, Kip and I did, and I thought that went well. And then I had a White House briefing on the American Rescue Plan that afternoon. On the 11th, the South Central Energy Group, Molly from our staff, was a presenter on waste to energy and where do we go from here. She did a really nice job.
She does a good job.
Yeah, I thought it was she really did a nice job. I didn't realize all the stuff we were doing in that, so that's always good. On the 14th, I spent 5 hours standing at hole 3 on North Links for the WISE golf tournament. It was hot and standing there for a long time. On the 16th, I had Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership recruitment. We are getting a new gentleman from Wilmer who runs our welcoming organization and some diversity on the board, so that's really good. That night I had a Region 9 meeting. I actually brought this along, the trends for population, employment trends, and inflow and outflow of earnings. If anybody's interested, it's kind of interesting by each county.
Yeah.
And then on the 17th, I had Climate Smart Communities, which is that partnership with Germany on what are we doing, how do we do this, how do we do more renewables and that type of thing better. So that was good. And this morning I had Airport Commission meeting, just a couple things. August 15th is the flight breakfast, if anybody's interested, from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the airport. The 2023 air show will be June 17th and 18th. They're hoping to get the Blue Angels there. Sean Schlesinger, who used to be at Region 9, is now working for the city of Mankato, and the airport will be part of his purview.
That's because he was in the Air Force.
Was he in the Air Force? I wasn't sure which branch he was in.
I don't know if that's, but
yeah.
He knows what a plane is anyway.
And the city of Mankato will be doing a work session on August 2nd at the airport at 6 p.m. to talk about the tower. I'm hoping they support the tower.
When is that?
August 2nd at 6 p.m. And it will be virtual also because they're going to do it in the conference room there, which isn't that big. But yeah, I think that as I said, I went up with Fred Lutz the other day, and half the time you can't understand what people are saying on the radio, and the other half you have to have them in your sight, and if they're above you or below you, you can't see them. And there's a lot of inexperienced pilots, so that would make a big difference. And GMG had an international virtual thing the other day, and there's some companies from other countries that are interested in Mankato. But we want to make sure that our airport is safe and that they'll fly here as opposed to, I know Kevin has said that some people won't come here because of the inexperienced pilots without a tower. So hopefully they'll do that. The city will make that decision. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Colleen. Mark?
Mine is relatively short. I did have the work session on the 8th. It was productive, and then had our AMC District 7 live, and that was a good event, and good to see everybody I haven't seen for a long time. And I missed one thing, but the only other thing I did go to on the 17th of June was the Boy Scouts had their values event, and actually one of their recipients was Bakata Hayes, but he unfortunately couldn't make it, I guess, but that was a good event, and that really kind of concludes what I was able to get to.
Yep. Thank you, Mark. Kevin?
Well, work session and AMC has been mentioned. Also participated in Soil Water Conservation District meeting on June 10th. Attended Extension Committee meeting on June 17th. We were in person, as well as had a union negotiations review with Bob and Josh. Met with staff and others concerning the Highway 60 detour in Lake Crystal. Numerous inquiries about that and the detour. And for those of you that don't remember 1893, this is the first 15 days of June have been the hottest and the driest, and that since 1893. So a lot of issues on dust and things like that.
Past 88, 1988?
Past 88 by far, yes, for June. Also with MFS Farms, some continued discussions with that. Upcoming events, Township Officers, June 24th, and next day will be Le Sueur River, one watershed, one plan. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Kevin. I have a few things that weren't mentioned already. The work session, I think, did go very well. We had a very good discussion about the highway shop and was able to get some input from some of the professionals. We have a lot of challenges with that project, but we will work through them, and we got a good staff and a good group of people working on it. So we had a couple of my statewide emergency communication board has been taking a lot of my time. They have a lot of work groups that I'm on, and they go for 2, 3, 4 hours at a time, and I'm not very well versed on it, so I'm learning an awful lot. It's a lot of fun, but it is good to hear that we have a lot of people at the state that are very knowledgeable of the 911 system and the emergency communications. But I am learning it, and we are working through some of the legislation, and got to have it ready by the end of August, first part of September. Colleen already mentioned InterGov. We just had some brief discussions about the RFP they put out for the attorney services, and some projects going on in town. And last night we got to meet in person for our MVAC meeting, our executive meeting, and that was nice. They got the group together. Just had several items to deal with some grants for the child development, and some more grants coming in, and then some housing stuff, and just moving through with that. And then some ditch and gravel road dust issues because of detours. And the long project right in Eagle Lake that's getting no action on it whatsoever, but waiting for that gas line to get repaired or get moved or whatever. So A lot of construction projects, but yes, the dust control and gravel roads have been a conversation almost every day for us. So that is the end of my report. We did have lunch planned for 11:30, and so I don't know what the wishes of the board are. I probably will go back to work since it is relatively early, but if we want to.
I'm gonna head back home myself. I got, heading camping tomorrow, so we got
Okay.
some.
I have a whiteboard meeting
I know
at
you
noon.
did, so.
Yeah.
So we'd be down to 2, so we could probably just adjourn this meeting. If someone wants to go to lunch, we would.
That would be fine.
So moved.
Yep, motion to adjourn would be in order. Thank you,
Second.
Vance. Got a first and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for your time.
Thanks.
I just won't go eat.